everybody, I'm Rich and welcome to the Day Beer Review, and today we're going to be looking at a new offering from Guinness. This is Fonio Stout. It is a bold and lively stout, or so the can says, and it is in collaboration with Brooklyn Brewery, and it comes in at 6.2% ABV. Check it out. Hi everybody, it's Rich and welcome back to the Day Beer Review. Today we are looking at Guinness's Fonio Stout. It says it is a bold and lively stout. This stout comes in at 6.2% ABV. Now, I have to be honest, I saw this the other day. I had no idea what it was, and I was like, you know what? I like Guinness a lot. Let me check out what this new offering is. Now, I have to tell you, I didn't realize that they were also with Brooklyn Brewery when I bought it, because I really don't look that deeply into the whole box thing. I just figured, okay, new type of stout they're putting out. This says on the back of the can that this limited edition beer celebrates the rich global history of Guinness, blending our Irish heritage with the vibrancy of African culture and creative spirit of Brooklyn Brewing. Brewmaster Garrett Oliver highlighted Fonio, an ancient West Indian grain that lends the robust flavor of the region to this bold and lively stout. So I thought this was sort of an interesting offering, and I sort of like the way they are describing it. But you know, I want to make sure that I'm doing justice to this. I like Guinness, so I'm going to pour both. I'm going to have a regular Guinness draft on the right side here, and I'm gonna have the Fonio Stout on the left side. We're gonna taste, we're gonna see how good they both are. Probably gonna do this with a Guinness Extra Stout as well. Now, I do not know if this is nitrogen infused or not, because I just don't know. I did not hear a widget go off. I am pouring it into the closest thing I have to a clear beer glass. And you notice it pours very dark and very, very robust with the carbonation, to tell you the truth. And just for the comparison, let me pour the regular Guinness, and there goes the widget. And you know, you'll see a significant difference here as I pour of what the beer looks like as it comes out. And this is clearly, you know, a nitrogen-based Guinness. And, you know, if you take a look at the difference, it is pretty significant. The head on the left, the Fonio Stout, it is sort of got a typical beer head, whereas the Guinness is doing its cascade trick. Normally takes a little while for it to settle. Pour a little bit more of the older, you know, the traditional Guinness in there. A little bit more of the Fonio in here as well. And again, even as it settles, there is a distinct difference between the nitrogen Guinness and what I'm assuming is just the carbon dioxide Guinness. Doesn't actually give me any indication, but again, I did not hear anything as far as a widget going off. This Guinness still has to settle before we can drink it, and the can is empty, and you can hear the nitrogen widget in there. So, all right, let's try the nose on the original Guinness first. To me, I'm getting all of that good sort of coffee roastiness that I expect from a Guinness, with a little bit of that molasses hint. It's the nose of a Guinness. You know, coffee, sort of roastiness, a little bit of chocolate to it. I can't wait to actually drink this. Now, the regular Guinness does come in at 4.1% ABV, whereas the Fonio is coming in at 6.2. So if you are a Guinness drinker, this is going to up the ABV. Let's try the nose on the Fonio. This has a much hoppier nose on it. At least I'm assuming it's hops. There's also a roasted aroma here that's darker. It smells like a darker roast than the original Guinness. I'm not getting the chocolate. I'm not really getting the molasses. What is that aroma? Yeah, to me it smells like there's a lot of hops in there that I'm gonna get a burst of that bitterness on the back end that I'm not a big fan of. The other thing just to notice, like the traditional Guinness head is much lighter, about 2 fingers, whereas the Fonio is about half a finger's worth of head and much, much darker. I don't know if it's coming in on camera, but you know. Let's give it a taste and see what the... Actually, I don't know which to drink first. Do you start with the original as the base? Yeah, let's start with the original as the base. Now, as I learned in Ireland, Guinness is a gulping beer, so you're supposed to drink it much faster. And that's from the Guinness factory. It's very smooth. It drinks very nicely. There's that good nitrogen mouthfeel that sort of coats the mouth. It almost drinks like a milkshake on top. The roasted coffee is there, a little bit of chocolate is there, a little bit of molasses. This is, you know, I think a quintessential stout. I'm a big fan of Guinness. Now I'm actually going to use the seltzer, rinse my mouth out, and we'll give the Fonio a try. There's something else there. You know, it reminds me of the stout that I had a while ago. I think it was called Black is Beautiful, that one where it's a bunch of different breweries and they're all doing the same recipe, but they're adding their own spin to it. It sort of reminds me of that, the last one of those that I've had. All right, let's give it a taste. Wow. To me, it drinks more like a dark lager. So the coffee is not there. The carbon dioxide definitely takes away some of that smooth mouthfeel. But to give credit here, the carbonation works really well because as you're swallowing it, you're getting a burst of flavor as it goes down. So there is some roastiness there, but it's almost like a roast. How do I describe it? It's almost like a roasted grain, almost like a sort of a wheat sort of. You know what? Okay, wait. Okay, I'm going to start at the back of the tongue and work my way forward. First off, this is much more hoppy than the traditional Guinness. And there's a lot of bitterness on the back end, especially for Guinness. As you go forward, I am getting this roastiness. And the funny thing is when you swallow and you exhale, and this is going to sound nuts, but I get just a hint of like a burnt New York City pretzel. You know, almost like a burnt wheat type of aroma. And for those of you who have been to New York and have had a pretzel from one of those vendors who are heating it over like the charcoal, like that's what I'm talking about. It's almost like a grain over like a charcoal type of roast aroma. But this is really much more of a back of the tongue type of beer. Everything sort of bursts into life on the back of the tongue to the center of the tongue, and it almost all seems to come from when you exhale. Oh, I'm sorry, not when you exhale, when you swallow, and you sort of get that extra bit of flavor because your olfactory senses kick in. That being said, you know, I'm going to go back to the regular Guinness for a second. Coffee, a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of molasses on the back end. I have to tell you, like if I had to pick, to me the Fonio is a little bit more rough around the edges. I know they're saying on the can that it's like, what's the phrasing on this? Bold and lively. to me, it's more a little bit too much bitter. And again, it sort of lacks that finished beauty that is a regular Guinness. Listen, would I turn my nose up at this if this was the only product they had at a bar? Or if this was the only thing they had stout-wise for a macro? You know, I might. I really don't love this. I feel like there's too much hoppiness, too much bitterness on the back end. And I'm using hoppiness and bitterness interchangeably, and I know that's wrong, but that's just the way it's coming off. No, it's bitter. There's sort of, it's not just a roast, it's a burnt flavor on the back of the tongue. It's lacking the smoothness of the regular Guinness. You can tell this is like a carbonation, and by that I mean carbon dioxide heavy beer, because even now, like, I'm feeling like, you know, almost like I'll be ready to easily burp when I'm done with this. So here's the question then, is this worth, you know, the extra alcohol and calories and everything else that goes along with this? I gotta tell you the truth, I don't think so. You know, this was brewed and canned by Guinness Brewing Company in Utica. So this is brewed here in New York State. It's a relatively, you know, recent release. And so it's not like it's gone bad or it's, you know, sour. And it even does say brewed in the United States. I gotta tell you, in the end, would I try the Guinness Fonio Stout? I would. Would I buy it again? I would not. Quite frankly, I am probably not even gonna finish this one, and I'll let other people have the other three that I have just so they can try them, because I just don't think it's that great. You know what it is? I guess for me, Guinness occupies a very special place. Because it is such a different mouthfeel, such a different texture as you drink it, that when you see somebody take a Guinness like this, and I get what they're trying to do, but for me, even going back and examining, again, let me clarify this. I don't hate it. I don't. And I understand what they're trying to do, and I respect that. But you know, like, for me, if I'm drinking for the sake of taste, I'm probably going to go for this traditional Guinness every single time. If you like a little more carbonation, a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more of that hoppiness on the back of your tongue, you'll probably like this a great deal. It has certain earmarks of Brooklyn Brewing Company all over it as well. I always think Brooklyn Stouts are a little bit more carbonated than I would like them to be. This seems a little over-carbonated. And again, I think this would be awesome if it was just dialed down, especially instead of the roastiness, sort of that burnt flavor I'm getting. I think it would be better if it was dialed down just a notch. I sort of like the very calm, reserved way the traditional Guinness, you know, it tastes, its mouthfeel, its ABV. So, you know, again, is it worth a try? It is, especially if you like hoppy beers. This is probably one you'll like. If you are a Guinness sort of purist and you like the regular Guinness, this is probably not going to be your jam. Like, if you're more of the sort of mellow, not bitter at the end of the swallow, then you're probably going to want to stick with the traditional Guinness. That being said, I do think the can art is awesome. And I do like the fact that they're collaborating, especially with a New York brewery. It's just, you know, for the sake of my flavor profile, what I like, this doesn't really, yeah, there's no widget in there. This is all carbon dioxide. For me, I guess I have so much attached to the traditional Guinness and how it tastes that this one really had a hard time living up to that. And it just doesn't for me. It doesn't mean it wouldn't for you. And it's probably worth the try if it's in your area, especially if you're more of a fan of those bitter, hoppier beers. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed the review. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to probably finish the regular Guinness, but I'm definitely going to take a few more sips of this because I do find it interesting. Again, it's not a bad beer. It's just not the flavor profile that I really expect from Guinness. And I understand why, because this is a different type of Guinness they're brewing. But it just doesn't really do it for me. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you have not. Any comments down below would be more than welcome, and I will see you next time on excuse me. I will see you next time on End of the Day Beer Review. I got a little tongue-tied. Maybe that's from drinking. Well, actually, I've only just scratched the surface, and neither of these come close to the normal ABV, so I think it was just a little bit of being tongue-tied. Anyway, folks, I hope to see you next time on End of the Day Beer Review. Have a good night. Cheers.